And I mean this for everyone. I strongly believe that every human being on the face of this earth that has the ability to make a decision is a creative. If you can cognitively make a decision, you are a creative. There's no ifs, ands, or but about that. That is our superpower.
Take it with a grain of fucking salt,
You
people.
gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Take it with a grain of salt.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Take It with a Grain of Salt. I'm your host, Derek Moore, and we're just gonna dive right in today. So last week we talked about character and the importance of that, the importance of being self-aware. We talked about the character lists, the character breakdown, so to speak, those attributes about yourself that are your filtration systems to decision making. We also talked about the most important segment of character being the connection to your network, which is important. Network is your access to opportunity. Network is the people that hold your social credit score. We also talked about what networking is in terms of where you should do it and how it operates. We talked about it, networking across being very important. The people that you work with on the way up are the ones that hold your social credit score. In this final segment of the three things that I feel that are essential for every young artist, that last one was creating, bringing something into existence for yourself. This is another favorite of mine because it kind of encompasses the first two, right? You need craft to create something, and you also need a little bit of character to kind of see it through when things aren't really going the way you would like them to go. Creativity is not lost on anyone. Inside of this segment, I do have three things that I feel that every creative should have when it comes to creating. I'm gonna knock all three of these out in one video so you ain't gotta worry about, okay, he gonna drag out. Nah. The first thing that I feel that every young creative or every storyteller should have is the ability to make decisions is essential, right? I would say if you can make a decision, you are 50 to 65% of your way to being a creative. And I mean this for everyone. I strongly believe that every human being on the face of this earth that has the ability to make a decision is a creative. If you can cognitively make a decision, you are a creative. There's no ifs, ands, or but about that. That is our superpower. One of my favorite creators right now, or influence right now, is a gentleman by the name of Myron Golden. And one of the things that he was talking about on one of his, I think it was a clip that I was watching, and one of the things that he was saying was that the first thing that God tells us about himself is that he is a creator.
Right. The first thing he tells us about himself is that he's creative. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Why do you do that? Because he's creative, therefore it is his nature to create. God's creativity flows out of his creativeness flows out of his creativity. Now, why is he telling us the first thing is that he's creative? Because the first thing he tells us about us is that he made us in his image and he formed us in his likeness, which means he created us to create stuff and he made us to make stuff. These are the parameters. So the first time God ever spoke to man, he didn't say, "Be still and know that I am God." Those are great words, but that's not the first thing he said.
It is our superpower to create. I say decision making, not because the result of decision making. I say decision making when we're talking about the process of decision making, right? I think I spoke about this in the character segment when I said that living life is a creative venture, right? You go somewhere mentally, you play out the scenario, and then you bring back results or you bring back information, and then you live out your life with those results. The place that you go when you make a decision is what I'm trying to touch on today. That place, that imagination place, that place where you create everything, that is where the game of life is played. And we take for granted that ability to go somewhere else, the fifth dimension, whatever you want to call it. This is what your employers buy from you, the ability to sit and go here, to decision make, to create, to pray, to meditate. This is our superpower. We use it every day. I say decision making because that is the most we use this ability. But if you just take a second to look around wherever you are right now, if you can just take a deep breath and look around, all of those things started here. They started in the decision-making room, that imagination place. That is the superpower. It's a superpower because it comes to us so easy. If you ever saw Superman fly, he doesn't strain to fly. Spider-Man doesn't strain to web. Thanos, if we think about Thanos, he wiped out half the population with just by snapping his fingers. That's the same effort that we have to bring things into fruition. Ideas are cheap. They're cheap because they are plentiful, but they are also powerful. Somebody went to that place and looked at tons of just metal and decided to say, you know what, I'm going to take this metal and I'm gonna put it in the sky. Before the planes were a thing, it was a blueprint in somebody's brain. It's the same thing about that building, the phone that you're holding, the laptop that you're looking at this on, or you know what I mean? These were ideas before anything. If I can't convince you that the ability to make a decision or the place that you go to make a decision is strong, think about what happens when you use it to disservice you. When you stay in the future too long, you get this overwhelming feeling of hopelessness and you get anxious. That's from time traveling too long. Same thing with going backwards. You're living in the past and you regret the things that happened. There's despair and then depression happens. So it is a superpower and you can use it for your good or you can use it for your bad, for your bad. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. But the ability to make a decision or the place that you go to, we're just gonna call this the imagination room. That is where creativity starts. And the game of life is played there because you're not only creating your career, you're creating your life. You're creating the decisions that you make are what's bending reality. I love Avatar, and creativity is another, I guess, element. You're bending reality. The second thing I would say that creators need, I'm gonna say a sense of play or imagination. Being able to say, what if? That is where ingenuity happens. That's where innovation is. Being able to look at something and say, what if? Now, we talked about craft. When you have craft, partnered with this innocence, this ability to say, what if? You go outside of the box and you have this structure there with you that can kind of anchor you inside of whatever new innovation that you're grabbing, right? That's why craft is so important because it allows, it just gives you bumpers when you're trudging a new path. You know what I mean? When somebody breaks the rules, they're breaking the rules, but they're in essence, they're creating a set of new rules that don't necessarily fit this process, right? Rule breakers are really rule makers. This mode of operation is a little outdated and I've been doing this for too long. I kind of want to try something else. You're still hanging on to certain rules, but this rule doesn't work here. And being able to say, what if, being able to have an imagination, having a sense of play is essential for artists very, 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 very much so. If any of you get the chance to watch children play, take it. If you have a cousin or a sibling, see where their imagination goes. Children are a lot of times, the best actors in the room because there is no rules bounding them to what can happen. The beauty of it is the commitment to it as well. So it's the imagination and the ability to commit and give yourself fully over to what you're envisioning. That's a side note for actors that I believe is very, 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 very important. It's not the director's job to give you a performance. As an actor, you need to come to work prepared. Rehearsal doesn't start when you're in the room. Rehearsal starts at the crib. If you are an actor that comes to work and be like, well, I don't know, well, how do you want this? If you ever ask that question as an actor, you're out of line. That's not the director's job. It's the director's job to shape and mold what you have brought to work. And that happens at the crib when you're making decisions, when you've read the text, when you've scanned, when you've done your script analysis. And we will break all that down. I promise you, I'm not gonna leave you hanging on what that is. We'll definitely break what script analysis is down. You can tell when the actors come to work with decisions. They're moving. And then everybody else around the room, or they become subservient to this prepared actor's decision making, and they have to build their performance, at least for that day, off of what's already in the room. You know what I mean? What's already happening, what's already at play. Director, your job is to shape and mold. Your job is to shape and mold. Your job isn't to give a performance. Allow yourself to be surprised with what an actor spent their entire time learning to do. That is definitely a side, that is definitely a tangent. The last thing I would say is faith. In any creative venture, whenever you are in the process of bringing a new idea to something, or bringing something from the imagination land into the real world, you have to be patient with yourself. This is why faith is important. When you go to what do I call it? When you go to imagination land, a lot of the times we see the vision and we come back to reality, and we want to bring that vision exactly how we saw it into fruition. That's not the point of imagination land. The point of imagination land is the feeling, is the excitement. When you get there and you see something, and then you get this surge of excitement, that is what you're bringing with you. The vision, sure, it can happen. It's possible that it happens exactly how you see it. But faith, this is where faith comes in. You have to have the faith to let go of that and allow God to put his hand on whatever you're creating. Faith is not always the ability to trust that everything is going to work out. It's also the ability to trust that when things aren't working out, it's probably for the better. And you need faith in the creative process because without it, there's a strong possibility that you might quit. I'm pretty sure human flight was not successful his first try. But these people had excitement partnered with faith that this thing will somehow come together. You have to trust in the place that you got the idea from. You didn't create it. None of us created it. So you have to trust that whatever is responsible for giving that idea also is responsible for making sure that it comes to fruition. And if I can encourage every young artist, anybody that is doing something that they love, I strongly implore you to continue to trust that you're not crazy. Trust that it will happen. It may not happen the way you've seen it, but in my experience, what I see, it pales in comparison to what God is seeing. When we decide, when we go to imagination land and we made up our mind, this is the way it's going to be, and we hang on to that vision, it has to be this way. Artists are notorious for doing this. It has to be this way. I gotta get it this way. You close yourself off to opportunities of it actually making it happen. It's why God doesn't show you. That's why he doesn't tell you where you're gonna be at, because you will mess it up. If God lets you know in the beginning that, hey man, you are going to be a Broadway actor, or you're going to be a Grammy Award winning actor, you're going to have alphabet soup, you're going to be well respected within the craft, and he tells you when and where and how is so inconsequential to you as a creator, as a person that lives life. Please get how out of your, how. I almost said, all you need to know is where the first step is, which is where I'm gonna help you out. I'm going to give you my creative process. Part of the goal of this podcast is to arm artists with the ability to be a part of every phase of their process, from the idea phase to the writing phase to the actual filming phase to the editing phase, right? This is my goal for young artists. Not forever, but the ability to know, right? The goal isn't for you to be a one-man band for the rest of your life, but it definitely is a goal for me to have you armed with the ability to do a lot of this stuff, so you can, as we talk about, diversify your income. Everything starts with the idea. A lot of times these ideas come randomly, at least for me. I'm like out kicking it, probably on a game, talking to somebody, and they say something. Or TikTok. TikTok has been a crazy source of inspiration for me lately. And not just, man, this would be a great story. And then the idea comes. That's not where you stop. A lot of people stop there. Oh, this is an idea. And then they start telling it to people. It ain't ready. That's a diamond in the rough. It's a diamond in the rough idea. It's a good idea, but it needs structure. It needs craft. You need to attack it. It needs to be beaten. It needs to be put into the fire. It needs a lot of destruction done to it. And that's the next step after the idea. I am so mean to this idea. I hit it with every question. A lot of times, when it comes to creating a story, I start with the end. I ask myself, how do we close? How do we land the plane? There have been a lot of stories that I've watched, great stories that take off and they just don't land the plane. You see it and it's like, yo, I put all this investment into this piece and it's amazing. And then the end is just blah. So I do put a lot of emphasis on, okay, what is the last moment? What is the last shot? How does that look? Like, what is the dialogue? How do we end this thing? And that's just one of many questions I start to just break the idea down with. How do we get into this world? What happens? What are the relationships? What's the medium? Is this a play? Is this a film? Is this television? Is this a short film? The goal with every idea is to be as mean as you can to it. It's the diamond process when they start breaking it down, stripping the diamond of all its impurities. You know, you're looking for plot holes. After the idea is supplanted, then it's time for me to create the outline. I give myself permission to be as vague as I want to be. And this is also a way for me to start setting up markers. There is there is no way that this is not happening. This has to happen. And that's sort of where I started building the story from. These things happen. This is the climax, or this is the inciting incident. And don't worry, I am definitely going to go into depth what these things are. But I don't have markers for all of these, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm very clear on the ending, and then I build from there. Sometimes I'm very, very clear on how I launch, and then I have to start finding my way that way. But the outline portion is, like I said, I'm making up to myself. I'm making it up to myself by being as nice as I can, by being foggy and vague as possible. Once that's done, I then start to shore it up. So I have a second draft of an outline, but I guess really for me, it's just kind of shoring up. Okay, so in this scene, this happens. Save the Cat, the book that I talked about, has a beautiful outline. Once the outline is kind of shored up, I begin the first draft. The only goal that I set for myself in the first draft is just to finish this motherfucker. I genuinely stare at the cursor, a blank canvas, for about 20 minutes or 2 days. That's just the goal for me in writing. Just when it comes to the first draft, finish. Just get it out. And if, I encourage anybody that is writing for the first time, please don't try to get the final draft done in the first one. My goal is to get to end of play or blackout. I set it down for 3 days after the first draft. And then I read it, and then I start asking myself the question, who the f is this person? You're terrible, you're dog shit. And I kind of want to touch on faith again, right? In the creative process, in the artistic creative process specifically, there's just problems you don't really foresee. You find plot holes, you find missing character arcs, the dialogue is just terrible. But you got to keep going. The reason why it's important to have faith in these parts, right? From the idea portion and just the writing portion, you already have 2 different stories. From the first draft to the second draft, you have a different story. In each phase of the creative process you go through, when it comes to creating your own work, you have a different story. So faith is the ability to let go of what you are let go of what was to walk into what is. So after that first draft, when you start reading back the monstrosity of what you put down into a final draft or cell text or whatever you're using, it's all not terrible. There's nuggets in there. There's beauty. There's things in there that remind you that, oh, you know what? I can do this. There's some dialogue. There's some heavy dialogue that you have that's like, this is what I'm trying to build off of. And that's what you do in that second draft. You start shaping up your ideas. You start shaping up the dialogue. You have to be gentle to yourself in this process. Don't take too much time, but take your time in that second draft. When I finish my second draft, that's when I have somebody read it. I have somebody that I trust read it. I spoke earlier, and I think in the first video, that what makes artists great is their ability to be coachable. And this, this is when that comes into play. When you ask someone to give you their opinion or something, you have to listen to their opinion. And I'm talking to me because I get very defensive about my work, especially when you take the time to actually put something down. If you can't find anybody in your circle that you trust to read your work, send it to me. I promise you I'll read it. I can't promise you that it'll be a quick turnaround, but I am here to lend as much of a helping hand as I possibly can. So send it to me. And it doesn't matter if they have an artistic background or not. You're creating this art for people that don't have artistic backgrounds. So their opinion is valid. I love sending my stuff to like my sister or somebody that is nowhere near the artistic field, because they give me honest opinions, and my family do not hold back at all. They don't care about my feelings. Yeah, but yo, son, this shit is trash, or I'm lost. What were you thinking? You need that, even if you don't like it. I've definitely gotten notes that I'm just like I don't show it on my face, but okay, thank you for that note. I really appreciate that note, but I'm not doing that. You do your third draft, you do your final draft. Don't get stuck here. Around the third or fourth draft is when I actually started doing pre-production for me. I started actually thinking about the shot list, because you can, one can get stuck in draft land, like trying to get a short script. But you got to understand that each phase, you're telling it, you have a different story. There's times that, you spend a week on trying to get this monologue or this chunk of dialogue correct. And then you get into film and you realize that this could really just be one word. You save yourself time and it's just better somehow. So faith comes in again, like just trusting that this thing is moving towards a vision that's probably better than what you started with. Around that third or fourth draft, I'm thinking about, the style, aspect ratio, what type of equipment do I need? I start preparing myself for the next phase so I don't get stuck in draft land. What also helped me is setting a date. All right, the first day of shooting this thing or filming this thing or doing the workshop, whatever, the date is here. This is when we start. Kind of helps you make decisions faster, and it gives you a little bit of an internal clock to beat, at least for me, right? If I don't have a date, I will prolong. So a date is important, which brings me to the next part of my creative process, is the actual filming. This is the easiest part of the process, and it's very hard, but this is the easiest part for me. Shot lists are important. I just gotta go right here. You gotta create that shot list. I remember when I did my first short film, and I did all of this, the pre-production stuff, and then I got into my location and I had no idea where to put the camera. For anybody that's just first time doing this, or you doing a shot, or you filming yourself, establishing shot, go wide, close-ups for dialogue, and B-roll. B-roll, 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 B-roll. B-roll as much as possible. Since we are on the subject of tips for first-time filmmakers, let me tell you this. These are the things that you really should start checking off if you're filming for the first time. Storage, storage, storage. One hard drive is not enough, and they are pricey. So I strongly encourage, if you only have one hard drive, just putting the footage on Google Drive or frame.io. That's a good storage spot. I think they charge you, but strongly encourage have more than one storage space. Any filmmaker that has lost footage really understands the importance of you really need to have backup. I've mourned films. Oh God. Make sure that your sound is rolling and make sure that everything is in focus. After everything is filmed, that's when I go into the editing process. The editing process and the writing process are very similar in the respect that, the first go at getting the story out is just getting through the damn timeline. Just get the story out was what I do. I just, the shots, I kind of, because it's very anxious, it's overwhelming for me to take all the time to go through everything, because I don't think I will never finish. So at least for me, it's just getting the story out. And then I start to kind of shape from there. I start kind of picking takes. I start to see what, where the continuity is. I start building the story from that way. any first-time editors, the softwares, Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere Pro, even Adobe Photoshop, these softwares can be very intimidating at first. And I'll speak for myself when I say that. When I first started diving into these softwares, I'm pretty good at just about all of them, except for DaVinci.
Why you freaking know DaVinci?
I'll learn DaVinci, I promise. But they can be intimidating. What I stress filmmakers, editors to focus on is how to use the blade tool, how to import your clips, of course, how to render your clips, of course, J cuts, L cuts, basic color correction. If you are filming in log, it's no problem to keep the LUTs that come with the camera. Or if you're on your phone, it's no problem. You might want to maybe in post decrease your exposure if you're filming on your camera. The iPhones tend to overexpose. Transitions, look, cross dissolves, fades, hard cuts. That's it. When you're putting a story together, it is not to display your editing ability, especially if you're starting off. Just simple fades, simple hard cuts, simple cross dissolves. Dude, there are $20 million, $150 million budget films that still do cross dissolves. So after I get all this shit on the timeline, now I'm actually starting, now I'm editing the film. So after I get that first draft of the story, I'm out of there. I'm stepping away. And I didn't mention this in all these processes. I know it's overwhelming. I'm cramming all of this into one, but breaks are essential in each phase. Within the phase that you're in, you have to take a break. You have to be able to step away from each of these phases. And you have to be able to step away from the project to allow things to kind of gel organically. Yeah, I think the only time you really don't have to step away is when you're actually filming. But editing, writing, be gentle. Be gentle, step away, let things marinate. But after that first edit, I step away. I let somebody see it, let somebody I trust watch it and give notes. A lot of times it's another filmmaker that understands editing. The second draft, after I take a break, I come back and then I let just anybody watch it to get their opinion on it. That second time I pass through is shoring up the story. Maybe cutting scenes a little bit down, maybe cutting scenes down a little bit. Have my viewing or have my screening or whatever it is, and then it's out. You don't have to do this, but I usually go into Adobe After Effects and try to create some type of animated graphic poster. That's when I can kind of show off some of the cool animation things that I have. That is my creative process. The goal of knowing all of this is not to be a one-man band your entire career. It's definitely not my goal. The goal of this is to be able to start up an idea, have a little bit more ownership of the opportunity that you're trying to create, and if you so choose to take the path of being a director or being someone that is integrated in every process, it just gives you at least in my perspective, it gives you a little bit more authority. It makes you a little bit more dangerous. What are you gonna tell somebody that is competent in just about every part of the process? It makes the team around you, in my opinion, a little bit more confident too. You have input and you also have empathy as well for that sector, right? There are directors that just put the weight of the world on the editors. There are actors that just make it completely hard for directors to do their job. And I just think this type of knowledge just makes you a little bit more, at least I would hope, it makes you a little bit more empathetic to each sector. God bless gaffers. God bless sound designers. This is completely off topic, but I just think it needs to be said. Stage managers or showrunners or assistant directors, anybody that is responsible for wrangling the cast and crew, if you're ever out and you see me at a bar, your first round is on me. My heart goes out to y'all. And I truly, 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 truly thank you for your service. And I respect the hell out of you. Those people are some of the most hardest working people in show business. And I get very, very upset with actors that don't respect that part of the job. I get extremely, extremely upset. And the only reason why I know is because my mentor made us take a stage management class. And that shit is, I don't want to do it. But having this knowledge is a way for you to diversify your income. The ability to write is its own separate skill. The ability to direct yourself and other people is its own separate skill. The ability to act is its own separate skill. The ability to edit is its own separate skill. All of these are skills that can exist in isolation outside of you creating the opportunity for yourself. Creating opportunity for yourself is when all of these skills come together. You can be hired just as a writer. You can be hired just as a director. You can be hired just as an actor or an editor. I am blessed enough to say that I've been hired, with the exception of writing, in every sector. And it's just a way to expand your acreage of artistry. It doesn't matter what you have. Nip has this, he talks about starting where you are with what you have. I shot my first short film, Talking Shoulders. Oh my God, that film depresses me. But I shot all of that on my phone, which is, Filmic Pro. Using an app called Filmic Pro. It is very user-friendly for people that are trying to get a more, I guess, a high-end camera. It lets you play with focus. It lets you play with ISO. It lets you play with the aperture. It lets you play with LUTs. But I had like very little equipment. I was in my uncle's garage, Uncle Keith, RIP, and I shot my first film. And I had virtually nothing but an idea and like excitement and a little bit of faith that this thing was gonna come together. Analysis paralysis is one of the things that people talk about, where you try to get everything that you can to make sure that this thing happens, and you can paralyze yourself with too much planning. The goal is to do. It's not the technology. That stuff will come. It's the idea. And that is what you're offering to the world. And I have to say this, for those of you that feel like your idea won't be well received, this is my opinion, you take it with a grain of salt, but that's ego. You are not special. And that's what I have to tell myself anytime I get an idea. I'm not special. The fact that I have an idea, there's nothing new under the sun. So if I like this, I know that somebody else gotta like it, because I ain't that special, and you aren't either. If you like something, that is an indicator that somebody else will too. So it's also an indicator that you need to put it out. You gotta service. You gotta service the people of the niche that you're trying to provide, or the story that you want to tell. You gotta service that. So don't let your ego talk you out of, man, ain't nobody gonna like this. No, you like it. You're not special, so somebody else gonna like it too. Feedback is how you shore up that idea. But don't get so full of yourself where you think that this idea is just so unique that ain't nobody gonna get it. Silly fucking rabbit. No, because you like it, other people will too. Guys, thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for watching this, man. You have no idea. You have no idea. Man, yeah. I almost quit a lot. I almost gave up on this. There's times, this journey has been for me like, it's been the most humbling experience, journeying as an artist. I can't put into words the level of gratitude that I have for where God has brought me from, the thoughts that I've had, because I've had some crazy thoughts. I've had some thoughts of quitting, man, like giving up a few times. And it's not special to you if that's what you're going through right now. It's not unique to you. It's preparation. It's preparation. I'm gonna keep saying this until, I get my damn page blocked or they pull me off of YouTube or whatever. What I'm going to continue to preach is longevity. And with that, in my And I guess what I'm hoping is that creates a community, that creates a solid foundation. In order for me to have longevity, I have to do my due diligence. You have to do your due diligence. And that requires a unwavering commitment to see your opportunity come through hell or high water. Guys, I'm telling y'all, like, as a man of faith, there is no way that I'm not getting what I want when it comes to this profession. If air can get in, so can you. No doesn't mean no. It just means that you haven't figured out the right configuration for a yes. Consistency, building your craft, having boundaries, and having a moral compass, and having an unwavering commitment to seeing your opportunity come through by creating opportunities for yourself, I believe are key components to longevity of career. Thank y'all so much for watching. This has been Take It With a Grain of Salt. Y'all make sure y'all like and subscribe and stay tuned because we're about to start rolling up our sleeves. We're gonna break down this thing right here, the acting terminology. Also, we're gonna break down this thing right here, which is dramatic structure. Thank y'all so much again for watching. My name is Derek Moore and I'll catch y'all later.